Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, members of the faculty. Thank you, Board of Managers. Thank you for extending this unparalleled privilege and honor to me. Coming from my alma mater, this really means the world to me. And as we say at home, muchas gracias, Swarthmore. And to the students and their families, welcome to this wonderful day, rainy, stormy. So you are here now at the end of a long road, or what to you must seem like a very long road. And so really my very best congratulations to all of you and to your families. You do deserve a round of applause. You have been expecting this moment for a long time. You have been planning for it for a long time. You even bought umbrellas. You have simultaneously dreaded and looked forward to this moment. And now that the moment is here, you should relish it, and you should be very, very proud. Very, very proud. And especially, my heart goes out to the engineers. I know what it's like. I know what it's like. And so my main message to you is conveyed by a quote that you will see might or might not be necessarily true, but it goes like this. When I was 5 years old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. And then when I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I wrote down, happy. And then they told me that I did not understand the assignment. And then to which I replied, you don't understand life. Like any powerful idea, this is ascribed to various authors and reinvented in every culture. In this wording, the internet attributed to John Lennon. This was not a plant. This is a great music to walk into here with. But you know by now, you should never believe the first hit on Google, right? You need to really understand, where does this really come from? And actually, the best research points to the very famous Linus Van Pelt. As you know, Charlie Brown is Snoopy's best friend. So dig deeply into the research and you will find interesting things. But seriously, what this quote says to me is that you should be empowered by your education and your work and your job, but you should not be defined by it. So let me explain. Ever since you can remember, you have been asked this same question over and over again. What do you want to be when you grow up? It later became the innocent but even more dreaded, so what's your major? So a defining factor of your success today is that you have finally conquered the very difficult task of identifying a particular path, your so-called major. Some of you were fortunate enough to know it early on. Others just discovered that about a year ago. You know who you are. Yes. But today, you all can and should rejoice and celebrate. Each and every one of you can today answer the question in a definitive and resounding way. In fact, it will be proclaimed for all to see on your diploma. And it feels good, doesn't it? You finally know what to say to people when they ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you can now breathe a huge sigh of relief. But on the other hand, it's actually very interesting to ask why deciding on a major can be so difficult, so loaded with emotion, so pregnant with anxiety. And I think it's actually this anxiety that makes the anecdote of what you want to be when you grow up and being happy such a good story and actually such a good joke. Because as most good jokes, it points to a deep dichotomy. It actually points to a deep idea. And the idea, as I see it, is that asking you what you want to be, as in what is the role that you play in a community, it does not mean, and it is actually very different from asking you what you want to be. With capital B, defined as your state of mind, the quality of your being. Those are very different things. So on the very day in which you have earned your professional identity, with such great effort, my advice to you is that you should let your education empower you, but you should never, ever let it limit you or even define you as a person. Somebody agrees. In fact, that's probably a common occurrence here. In fact, actually, nobody among us is immune from lingering doubts. And the lingering doubts center around questions like, did I choose the right major? Am I really ready to embrace a specific professional identity? Does this define me for the rest of my life? What did I get into, right? And what I'm here to tell you is that you should not let these lingering doubts bother you at all. In fact, you should use those lingering doubts as a window into your true self, because if you listen carefully, what those lingering doubts are telling you is something that you have known all along, that you are much more than your training, your profession, your major. These doubts actually confirm that there is more depth to you than anyone can possibly imagine. Thus, my advice to you is that you should recognize, accept, and embrace that depth. Embrace that depth and explore what you're passionate about, and apply your education and talents to move in that direction, even if it seems incompatible with your major. By all means, be an English major who understands literature, but also be an English major who defines how the law treats poverty. By all means, be an engineer who designs machines, but also be an engineering major who makes breakthroughs in neuroscience. Be a psychology major who also builds nonprofit organizations. Be a humanities major who launches startups. Be a physician who does surgery, but also designs stimulators to reanimate limbs. Be a poet laureate who also detonates a political movement. Be yourself. The best use of education is to empower you to follow your passion. It is not to define you or who you are as a person. Education is not only about the contents of the classes that you take. Education is really about the process of learning. Knowing how to learn is the actual only tool that will help you navigate your career as you move forward, because change really is the only constant that any of us can rely on. So thankfully, Swarthmore taught me how to learn, and it has served me well. So let it serve you well. Be patient with yourself as you begin to navigate your career. In fact, do your future self a favor and learn all you can as you begin to navigate your career. So in closing, you are now officially empowered by your education. Use it and your talents wherever your passion may lead you, regardless of the major that's stated on your diploma. Be empowered, be passionate, be determined, be yourself, and most of all, be happy. Thank you.